Alright, so this is a quick explanation on how to use MyAniMATE new feature about AnimExport. Now it still supports the BBH format, that still works exactly the same, and you can use it with the BBH exporter provided for free. You can also find that on the Second Life wiki page. However, for the anim format, we have a different requirement. So the first thing for MyAniMATE to work is to have a Second Life compliant skeleton. In my case, I'm using Avastar's just the male female original, so we have less joints to deal with. But it works also with the bento version of the same skeleton. Alright, so the requirement is to have the very basic avatar, so it must be in a centimeter scale. Alright, it needs to be the very basic scale. If you have a meters scale, like if you have rigged your meshes in meter scale, this big, right, we must go back. If we are using MyAstar, we must go back to centimeter scale before running MyAniMATE. If you're importing any dev kit or whatever, it comes in meters. You should check in the outliner the hierarchy. It should be under any other node that will be scaled by 100 usually. So if also MyAstar does that, and also when importing rigged meshes, if you have a meter scale stuff showing over there, you can see that we have an avatar skeleton that contains mpelvis, and it might be also a group, and that is scaled by 100. That's how the meter scale is accomplished in here, and therefore just double check if it's so big. Make sure that this container, whatever it is set to 1, so it's in centimeter scale. So let's go back to original centimeter scale. Alright, and we can run the first script, generate animation skeleton. Alright, since I'm doing a human with fitted mesh stuff, I will click on yes, so that I don't get animation controllers for the collision volume bones, because I haven't deleted them, but I don't want to animate them. If I wanted to animate the collision volume bones, hit no, and you will get also animation bones for those. I will hit yes. I just want to deal with regular bones, regular joints, and I want the anim format. And then no, because we're going to take a look at the human IK implementation right now. So human IK is a little bit peaky, alright, because for Second Life AnimExporter we must retain the Z up and the X forward. However, human IK does not work if your character is not facing the Z and having the Y up. So that's a little bit of a problem, but not a really big deal. So I'm gonna select my my animation skeleton. However, we have 3 skeletons: the deforming one, the one you have rigged to, this one here called hip, this is for animation export, and this other animation for us. It's a expanded. This is a expandable type of skeleton. This is the interface we want to work with, so that we don't touch the skeleton used for export, because human IK is going to break this, and therefore I need this other one for the actual export. So we work on this, and we will export this other one. So this one here, as I was saying, is expandable. We can do whatever we like. So I'm gonna group this, edit, and then group, making sure that the pivot point goes to group pivot to the origin, so it goes to the center of the scene, and preserve position is turned on. So I'm gonna group it. From now on, that grouping will happen with Control G, and with that group selected, I will make sure that this character lays down so that it faces the Z, the positive Z. You see, it's facing that direction, and the head is pointing towards the Y-axis. Now, if we activate HumanIK and we go ahead and create a character definition, select the root joint over there, and now we can import one of the definitions I provide with this tool. So you have to select a location for them. In my case, I just placed it in my documents, Maya version, presets, and I'm gonna use SL Classic Avatar. Now before you click OK, just make sure you leave only the underscores, the double underscore at the beginning, delete the remaining, so everything would be mapped, and then click OK. And now all is good. Lock it. After you have locked it, this definition will stay regardless of further rotations that you might be doing. Okay, so for mocap stuff, let's begin with that one. So it's really easy. You should just import, file and import. Drag and drop may interfere with naming with other objects, I found out. So the best way is to actually import this stuff, okay, so your mocap file, so that they get a namespace that should stay for you there. So HumanIK does not get confused and make bad evaluations. So I'm gonna click on OK, and I'm gonna pause the video for a second because I don't actually remember where I have some mocap data I can use. Alright, I found what I was looking for. So I'm gonna import a mocap as FBX. That's the most convenient way because we have the ability to tell this is the default behavior, use namespaces, and you should make sure it is turned on for yourself. So the file name will become a prefix for everything that is contained in that file. So there won't be any duplicate names to confuse Maya. And also because you can, not there, you can read whether or not there is any mismatch. Warning, frame rates do not match. This is a 30 frames per second, Maya scene is 24. No worries because Maya retimes everything automatically. So you may want to cancel this and change your frame rate and then import this thing again, so to not have the retiming, or just let Maya retime everything for you. I will just let it retime. So I'm gonna let it import my stuff there, and there it is. Cool. Now if this came in as group, which contains the hip with a namespace, okay, so even if joints may have the same names, that there won't be any breakage occurring. That's cool. So we'll do the same thing for this guy here. We have to make it lay down over there, but the group needs the pivot point to be in the correct location. So D, and I'm gonna snap it right there in the center of the scene. There you go. Okay, then rotate. Alright. So now this is also ready to be defined as a human IK thing. Alright? So, moving on, we have the definition ready for our Second Life skeleton, which is named character 1. Rename it. Character, we'll call it SL avatar. Okay. So we now need to define the other skeleton here. So I'm gonna switch to none and create a new character definition. This won't be the same character 1. This is going to be mapped to the mocap. So I'm gonna select the hip in the mocap and again import a skeleton definition, folder icon over there. Again, browse. In my case I use IPy for recording mocap. It can be anything. I did not include that in the package because that is not actual standard. So documents via okay, and this time leave this as it is. So it's identifying stuff by namespace. Okay, so this way you make sure that everything goes correctly. Okay, everything's green. We have the OK from Maya. Lock this thing. Cool. And now if we switch back to our SL avatar under source, we can specify, since we have the mapping done, we can specify that we want the animation from the imported character. And there you go. You have now the mocap being mapped over there. But wait, this is not usable yet. Also because you might want to edit it, right? This might be, and indeed in my case it is, simple raw data that I had to rework and refine with human IK. So let's go ahead. Make sure you are using character SL avatar. Alright. We go to bake to control rig, and I'm gonna open an option box. Because the problem here is that I have a lot of keyframes. I mean a lot of frames here, and it's gonna take a lot of time. So I'm gonna reduce the amount of frames first to something feasible in a short time. Okay, so 155, something like that. Make sure you have a full number here, no decimals. Okay, this is the result from the time remapping that it did. I want it to start at frame number 1. Okay. All right. And then, yeah, make sure you have time range as time slider, or you may also want to have everything, start to end, maybe, and set it over here. What else? These two did not affect much in my latest tests. Channel all keyable, base animation. Okay, baked layers, clear animation. That is the best thing to do. Okay. There it is. Keep unbaked keys. I'm going to turn this off. Okay, I don't want it on. In my case, because I don't want to keep all of the keyframes after these frames here. Okay, so say I'm interested in these 160 frames only. Okay, all the others with keep unbaked keys turned off, they won't be kept, they will be just deleted. Sparse curve bake is a sort of optimization. Doesn't give very good results all the time. So you might want to give it a try, but not in this case. So I'm gonna click on bake, and I'll be waiting for Maya to complete the transfer, baking all of the motions. Alright, so it's done, and now I have a control rig with its animation applied. Okay, so I can start editing it. Let's clean up the scene first, so let's switch to character 1, the one that we got the animation from, and I'm going to back to definition, and I'm gonna dump it. Yes, let's dump this. We're just left with the Second Life avatar. We can remove now the BBH file stuff if we don't need it anymore. I mean, removing the character and this object here, I would do it only when completely done. Anyway, after this, yeah, I would remove also the namespace just to keep the file clean and slim. So general editors and namespace editor, mage clips via delete. I might also delete this from MyAstar, doesn't really matter. Alright, nothing left. Okay, so at this point I can grab the main object controller, okay, rotate it back to how it is supposed to be for Second Life. Oh geez, come on. Alright, there you go. Now that it is back with Z up and X forward, since we have an expandable rig or skeleton, namely, where is it? This one here. Yeah, you see? This is the animation skeleton we had at the beginning. That's been broken by Human IK for its functioning order, right? But it still drives the export skeleton that is going to be used for animation export. Okay, so this was really raw data with no head and no hands animation. Okay, so I should make sure that I do some animation in order on these pieces here in order to get them through Second Life. Otherwise, my script is not going to include those joints. They are not rotating, they are not moving, and therefore they won't be exported. So make sure you make some rotations, differences, so that my script can detect the rotations and export them. So for that reason, let's see. It seems to be rotating, but I guess it's not going to. So just to make sure, let's do a quick rotation here. Okay, I'm not using the auto keyframe, so let's do that. Auto keyframe, keyframe there. Okay, so make sure that the rotations have a difference, substantial difference between frame 1 and 5, or the 5th frame after the animation start, because that's how it's gonna check for animation. Okay, so I've kept, let's do something like this and this. Okay, so this is just a test, and I would not do this like this manner. I would add animation in animation layers on the hands only. But for the purpose of this demonstration, just to let you see that these now will be exported. 1 + 5 = 6. And yes, we have a rotation difference over there, so they will be exported. Alright, so let's take a look at the other things here. What is this object? It's body controller. Don't delete this. If you're not going to use it, don't delete it. This is used as a sort of sit target, and I will when the animation needs to be offset somewhere, but you don't want the animation to actually offset the avatar in world. Okay, so this is a sort of reference object for a sort of sit target. You can hide it if you don't use it, but do not delete it. Alright, in my case I'm gonna use it as a main controller. So I'm gonna select this, then this, and in the animation tool shelf the first one here is the parent constraint. Therefore that is an actual body controller if I need to. Alright, so let's move on to the actual export. Run on MyAniMATE AnimExporter here. This is the addition of the ear. There you go. So this is the anim format type of input that Linden Lab requires to be embedded into the file. So the most important embedded parameters are priority, start frame, end frame, is in and is out. Notice start frame and end frame automatically read the timeline and the range you have set here. It does not read it in real time, so if you change it now, you will have to change this manually. Is in and is out. I'm sure every one of you is already familiar with this. You're going to specify them here, okay, not upon upload like with BVH files. Whether or not it's looped, and if it is, this also auto-detects a full loop, okay, but you can specify any other frame range within what you have specified here. For the classic avatar, we have the face morphs and the hand morphs. Okay, so you can specify any of these for the default avatar. Note that it is now very useful because of Bento, but you know, it is there because this stuff needs to be embedded in the file anyway. Now, what I was saying about the body controller here. Global avatar position. When you turn this on, the animation will record the movements of your avatar in relation to the center of the scene, no longer from this object, the distance from this object. It's going to calculate the distance from this center of the scene here. Okay, so if I move the body controller when global avatar position is on, and I export my animation, my avatar in world will shift sideways like this, okay, and then start to perform the animation. Okay, so make sure that you're not moving your avatar when in global avatar position. Alright, next, what we have here is include joint translation. This is intended for position animation of your joints, and yeah, this is going to pass the hip movement anyway through, so only the extra joint animation would be filtered out. And if you're doing some translation on your joints, and if you're moving them quite far away from the avatar, we also have a sanity check here, position range limit test, because we have a 5 meters limit, and this is not necessary in case you're just moving joints slightly or not very far away from the avatar. When unsure about it, you can run also the position range limit test prior to the export, and in case you have a joint that goes beyond that limit, it will throw out an error with the joint name that's going beyond the limit, so that you can fix things instead of having it automatically clamped mathematically by the script. Alright, the next thing is the resample every frame. This can be useful when it comes to not necessarily looping animations. Just make sure that the animation length that you have can be divided by 2 or the 3 samples, so that you can end your animation sequence so that it can loop. This is not necessarily going to ensure looping though, so I will keep that to 1. Alright, so now another cool feature about the anim format. Here is the joint priority map that I created, in case you wanted to have different priorities for some joints here, different than the base priority you would give to the full animation. So say that you want, I don't know, an animation priority 4 for all of the joints, but the upper arm and the forearm, for example, that might be a lower priority. Alright, so you just type in here, say that was 4, say 3, and then 3. These 2 joints will be exported with a lower priority than all of the rest of the avatar, which will get a priority 4. The animation will still be there, but it will have a lower priority on that single bone. If you leave this to 0, like this, when the joints are set to 0, only the main priority will go through. Alright? If you're using these features, make sure you still have the window open for the script to query these values. If it's not open, it will just discard these things. So if you close it down with some settings, it won't detect those settings. Alright, and then export anim. The export anim will happen and will default the output here to your main projects folder inside of the current project, MyAniMATE tutorials, inside of assets. These are the final Second Life assets, so I thought that could be an appropriate location for a default save path. But you can also change that to whatever you want. And then a name. You don't need to specify .anim at the end, just do cool stand to guard, for example. Right? Something like this. And the .anim suffix will be appended automatically. So, yeah. It removed what we had before. Scenes assets. That's fine. It's looking for a directory, so make sure you click on a directory. Just one click. Save. And it will be there. And then export it to anim. The only thing about this is that, unfortunately, for how Maya has to evaluate things and write them to file, each single joint needs to be evaluated through the entire frame range for its rotation and for its position, in case there is any position, joint by joint. So it will be quite slow. However, the final result will be exactly what we have here. So if you have your animation with feet firmly planted somewhere, they will stick there instead of jittering as we were used with PVH files uploads, and therefore all of your animation data is going to go through to Second Life exactly as you had it here. Alright, so I will stop the recording for now until it's done. Alright, so just a couple of minutes passed before it ended the export. So I'm gonna copy this excuse me, this path here, and I'm gonna open it in my file browsers. There it is. So cool, stand to guard. Make sure I have that copied, and here we are in the beta grid. Now on my avatar it will not be extremely precise because he has joint positions, so it might need some hover adjustments, but let's take a look at how that worked on him. So, animation there. Let's close stuff down. Alright, so I'm exporting this again because I did not realize that I had included joints translation, and clearly there wasn't any joint translation to be used here, or any that we wanted to use. Alright, and instead HumanIK is doing also some translation work, and therefore well, just the hips need the translation. So we make sure that this unnecessary translation data does not come through, as we have seen in on my avatar earlier, because that's not only a problem with my joint, with my character over there, but it's also with the default one. So as you can see, this is what you get from HumanIK if you're not careful, okay? Because with human hierarchies, translation should not be needed. This is what you get if instead you use it. So in a second we will see what we get without the translation thing. Alright, so back here, I just uploaded this and renamed it so it's easier to identify for me. I'm gonna play that locally, and now it works as intended. Alright, oh yeah, this is my shapes vault. If I stop it, my avatar floats because I have some hovering adjustment. Like this should be the correct one for the default shape. And so when I play it, perfect. Right, so exactly what you get, what you see in Maya is what you get once uploaded. Unfortunately I made a mistake earlier because of the explanation. Oops, I opened the other Maya version. Because of the mistake I did by including the joint translation here. I should not, and indeed after I exported this again without joint translation, the only translation that was recorded was the hip, as it is right to be. Okay. Yeah, my other Maya just opened up, and yeah, you see the hands came through because I set some keyframes at the beginning. You see that happening, but the head is still free. Indeed, if I set my look at somewhere else, my avatar is looking at that direction. So that was what I was saying about making sure there are initial rotations differences between the first frame and 5 frames after the beginning, and your animation will come through even if the rest of the animation has no actual rotation data. Otherwise, like for the head, this is what I get. And it still works also with the avatars with joint position, a little bit less precisely, of course, because they have joint positions set in the mesh, and therefore the animation does not really account for that, but it still works. So just a second, and now I will change my avatar back to my own default. Alright, so I'm back to my normal, and with no animation overrider, of course. And yeah, I'm gonna play that again. I had my hover height adjustments for my shape. Okay, I mean for my joint position avatar. And you can see that's pretty precise. It's not exactly like if you start from a default avatar and adapt it to another avatar that has a shape applied instead of joint positions. With joint position it's a little bit off, but that's completely normal. And that's it. So this is how easy it is to get some animation through. The same process, a similar process, would be for animation, for a manual animation. So let me close this one here and open a new scene. Alright, so provided that we have let's put this one here, a skeleton, a rigging skeleton for Second Life in centimeter scale from an FBX view import, and that you can find on the Second Life wiki again, or with MyAstar as I just did it. I'm going to run MyAniMATE again. So yes, anim, and no. Alright. So again, as before, we grab the root joint over there, Control G, as we did before. Right, rotation 90-90, so that should be fine. Let's go in Human IK, create character definition first, select the root, pick one of the files I provide. So I'm navigating to those XML files, classic avatar, open, remove everything from match all bones, and just leave 2 underscores, so this is most important. Okay, right, so then lock and create the control rig. Cool. Then we can select the entire object from the root thing there, and we can rotate it back like so. Alright, and you're ready to animate. Alright, so that's it. It is so damn easy. And see how well Human IK works. I mean, everything is quite realistic. Alright, so thank you very much for checking out this video. I hope that you find this tool set useful. that your animation work, it becomes way easier now.